If you haven't seen the movie Killers of the Flower Moon by now, you're probably not going to, because it's 3.5 hours and ain't nobody got time for that, and I don't blame you. But if I could give a quick overview, spoilers, cover your ears if not. It's a true story, so it's not spoilers, it's life. It's just history. It is such a fascinating true story. They don't even change the names. It's real people, really thing that happened, and it's crazy. It's basically the Osage Indians, Native Americans, Indians in the movie, are on a reservation. You know, they've been given this plot of pretty shitty land, and they're on this reservation, and things are not going good, and they don't have a lot of money, and it's not good. And then they discover oil. Oil. Okay? And all of a sudden, there's oil on this reservation, and this is extremely, extraordinarily valuable. First thing they do, smart, is set up a legal trust in the name of the Osage people that owns all of the oil on all of the land, and it's split up amongst every member of the tribe. So everybody gets a piece equally. And so overnight, this tribe goes from poverty to the richest per capita area in the earth in the 1920s, and certainly in America. So every one of them is a millionaire. Again, I looked up the real inflation-adjusted value of some of these head rights. Head rights is like your name, your last name, rights to the piece of the oil, because it gets passed down from parent to children, you know? I think it was like $114 million per person in modern day money. Like, they're all fucking absurdly wealthy. Everyone, you know, men, women, and children, they're all fucking wealthy. And so as the oil is pumped out, every month, they all get an allotment. They get cash. And obviously an entire business springs up around the town to take their money from them, basically. Everything is insanely expensive. So there's bars, and there's, you know, car dealers, and there's fancy clothes, and they're all fancy. They all have like servants, and the people around the town become very envious and jealous of this money, and they begin to plot on ways to get their hands on it, other than just extorting them with the extreme prices. Everything is very expensive. The whole plot of the movie is a true plot that happened with this guy named King Hale. Brian Hale? Something like that. King Hale. And he pretended to be a very good friend of the Osage Indians and helped them out. He's like, you know what? People are going to try to take your money. I'm going to help you out. And he helped set up this town, and he helped, you know, make sure there was police in the area. But instead, King Hale here was plotting to have his nephew marry one of the Osage Indians, then start systematically killing off all of her family members, so all of their head rights would go to the person he married. So he has his nephew marry this woman Molly, and then they poison her sister, they shoot one of her sisters. They all look like either accidents or, again, he has control of the police and the doctors in the town. So no one can investigate. No one knows that he's doing this. Everything gets unexplained or unexplored. But one by one, he's knocking off all these people. And again, he's not the only one doing this. In this time period, the murder rate here rose to like astronomical levels. People were killing all sorts of these people for their money. They were robbing them, they were killing them. The amount of wealth brought so much theft and murder, and the police were not on their side, so they had no protection. But anyway, this guy has this whole plot, and he murders all the sisters and the mother, so that only thing is left is her, and then starts poisoning her, so that all of her wealth, which is like $600 million at this point, would go to his nephew. And he also tricked his nephew into signing something that would give all of his rights to him. So he's probably going to kill his nephew. So nobody's helping the Osage Indians. And so finally, they meet up. They have like a tribal council, not Survivor, and they send $20,000 in a delegation, $20,000 at the time, this is 1920, to Washington, D.C. to plead to the president. And they plead directly to the president, hey, we're being murdered en masse and no one's doing anything about it. And so finally, the president sends the very first squadron of the newly formed FBI. It's basically the beginning of the FBI. He sends Jesse Plemons from Breaking Bad. And Jesse Plemons shows up and is like, hey, this is mighty suspicious. And he starts questioning people, and like everyone's really dodgy. No one explains what's going on. They're all basically fucking in on it, on this constant murdering and theft. And they get to the bottom of it, and they finally fucking arrest King Hale. And they get his nephew to turn against him as witness, and they put him in jail for a long time, but he does eventually get pardoned, which is crazy. But I think it's like good 20, 30 years. And they draw parallels between this and the Tulsa race riots that also happened around the exact same time. And if you guys aren't aware with that, it's like a part of American history you should know, because it is dark. And that is where there was a part of Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they had set up what they called Black Wall Street. And it was a bunch of black-owned businesses that were all thriving. It was black people shopping at other black people's businesses, and these businesses started to grow and thrive. And eventually, in the town of Tulsa, black business owners in this area started to become wealthier than the white people. And that caused a ton of fucking resentment. Again, this is like the rise of the KKK era. Eventually, there's like a standoff, some powder keg, you know, some moment. I believe it was some young black person, 21, got accused of catcalling a white woman or something. I don't remember the exact starting of it, but it ends up exploding into a full-on, I mean, like a war, like a massacre. Like they blow up every fucking building. Many people are killed. They dropped fire bombs. Like they had a fucking planes dropping fire bombs. People all around from Tulsa came to this area to destroy all of the black-owned businesses. It was crazy. You know, it sets them back generationally in wealth. It's one of the darkest, worst times in America. Like it's really one of the blackest marks on our country's history, and they don't even cover it. Like in Tulsa, it is, you know, not maybe nowadays, but I mean at the time, for the next 30 years, they pretended it didn't happen. This is the parallel between this and the Osage Indians, and like just what happens, you know, with I guess greed. When greed hits different, greed meets racism, I guess is actually the real fucking crossover. Anyway, kind of an unrelated story. I don't know, a little morbid to discuss, but if you don't know this, I think it's worth knowing. It's like read more about this and perhaps the Osage Indian stuff, because it's like, it gives you some context on the things that aren't too far in the past that can explain other people's thoughts and feelings, bro.